replacement cartridges at stores everywhere for just $15 a piece. It's very easy to use. Just fill a bottle with cold tap water up to this line, pop it right in, and then you press down. And these lights in the front will light up so you can get exactly the level of carbonation you like best. And that's it. For $99.99, the SodaStream Source home seltzer maker is a real convenience, and it's so worthwhile if you love seltzer.
Back in 1987, my brother and I drove from Cannes to Monaco, and we stopped at a little bouillabaisse restaurant. That's all he made. It was absolutely fabulous. And a few months later, I'm back home and going like, I really want to create that meal. So I got a classic French recipe for bouillabaisse, and I spent basically the whole day making it. I made a stock, I used fennel, I used leeks, I used parsley, some tomatoes, some wine, some spices. I used red snapper heads to help make the stock. Of course, I got a rash from handling the fish. And then finally, I had to cook the food itself, the shellfish, the shrimp, the scallops, the whitefish, the cod. It took me all day. My kitchen was a complete disaster. Everything was overcooked, and I was too tired to enjoy dinner. So let's head into the test kitchen with Julia this time. Start with a simpler concept, a cioppino, a simple fish stew, and make something every bit as good as this recipe, but in under an hour. Now, people think sometimes we exaggerate the bad food at the beginning of the show. I've actually made a fish stew just like this. The whitefish does disintegrate because it cooks very quickly.
That's right.
And some of the shellfish doesn't open, some of it does open.
That's right.
So you have lots of different things that cook at different rates.
That's right.
And when you put everything together, it's a disaster.
Yeah, fish cooks so quickly. If you're a minute over, I mean, you're done for. It's just going to break apart like that.
So this is a high wire act.
That's right.
Which you need to bring it down to ground level.
So when it comes to cioppino, which is a very specific seafood stew that comes from San Francisco, it's tomato-based. It has a little bit of garlic. It's a little spicy. And of course, it has both fish and shellfish in it. And we found recipes out there that were very complicated and took hours to cook and used every pot and pan and bowl in your kitchen. And we also found some recipes that were so simple, they were really watery tasting. They had one kind of fish in it, so it didn't feel special at all. So we were aiming for the middle. Not so complicated, but not so simple tasting, but right in the middle. So I have in this pot a 1/4 cup of vegetable oil that's been heating up over medium-high heat till it's just starting to shimmer. And now we're going to add 2 finely chopped onions. I'm going to give you the spoon.
Thank you.
And we're going to add 1/2 teaspoon each salt and pepper. Of course, the salt will help draw out the moisture in the onions and really help them soften and begin to brown ever so slightly. And that'll take about 8 minutes or so. While you keep your eye on the onions, I'm going to turn my attention to the tomato product. You want to look for whole peeled tomatoes in juice because they don't have the preservatives in them that the diced tomatoes have, so that they break down much more quickly into a sauce. So I'm just going to strain the tomatoes from the juice and then give them a quick chop. And if you find any bits of skin or any of the stem in there, just trim them out. You just want to give them a rough chop. You're not looking for a particular size because they're going to really cook down pretty quickly. All right, so now we're going to combine the tomatoes back with their juice. And this bench scraper makes it really easy to pick up the tomatoes right off the board and any juice that has exuded. And there we go. How are those onions looking?
I think they're perfect because I did them.
Perfect. You can see they're starting to turn translucent and they're getting a little bit lightly golden around the edges, which is perfect. So now we're going to add just a little bit of water. This is a 1/4 cup of water. And this will really help make sure those onions get super soft before we add the tomatoes. We're going to let this cook out for about 5 minutes or so. Doesn't that smell good?
It does smell good.
Yeah, the peppers started to really bloom in the oil with the onions.
Fish?
This is 4 cloves of garlic. And remember, this is supposed to have a garlicky flavor. A few red pepper flakes because it's supposed to be spicy. Teaspoon of dried oregano and 2 bay leaves. You really just want to cook them around in there until they start to smell them. They smell fragrant.
Does smell good.
Yeah. This is 1 bottle of clam juice. A little bit of clam juice really helps bring the seafood flavor forward. And of course, our chopped tomatoes with their juices. You just want to stir that in. And we're just going to bring this to a simmer and let it cook for about 5 minutes before we start adding the fish. It smells delicious. You can see it's thickened up and it's ready to start poaching some fish. So what we have here is 1.5 pounds of halibut. And of course we tried different kinds of fish, but halibut really worked best because it held together and it had a nice texture after it was poached. And you can see we've already cut it down into nice portion-sized pieces. We're just going to nestle it into the pot. I'm going to take some of the sauce and really just spoon it on top. And you can tell I've turned the heat down so it's not bubbling ferociously any longer. I'm just going to poach it very lightly at a low simmer. Of course, we'll put the lid on and let it go for anywhere from 12 to 15 minutes till it's nice and cooked through. Oh, that is really starting to smell good. So let's take a look at our halibut. You can see
It's still firm.
it's still
not
holding
turned
together.
flaky.
Perfectly done. So now I'm going to take it out of the pot altogether. Oh, that looks good. But I'm going to cover it with foil so it stays nice and warm. All right, so we're going to let this fish rest and keep warm while we cook the mussels and clams. And notice I'm covering the pot and I'm pushing it off to the side. And that's because we're going to cook the clams and the mussels in a separate skillet because they really will exude some grit no matter how well you wash them into the pan. We're going to add 4 tablespoons of butter and 1 1/4 cups white wine. So you have some choices when you come to putting clams in this recipe. You want to use whatever's fresh and what's local. So we're going to use little neck clams. So we're going to take a pound of our little necks. We're going to add it to the skillet with the butter and the wine. We're going to bring it to a boil over high heat. And then when it's boiling, we're going to cover and we're going to steam those clams open, which will take about 5 minutes. Oh, those smell good. I love the smell of clams and wine. It smells like summer. All right, so those clams are nicely opened. We're going to add them right to the stew base. And now we're going to add the mussels to this simmering liquid. And we're going to steam them until they open, and that takes a little bit less time than the clams. It'll take about 2 to 4 minutes. All right, so these mussels have been cooking for about 3 minutes. Now we're going to do the same thing as we did with the clams. And I'm going to use a slotted spoon and put the mussels into the big pot. Oh, thank you, sir. This smells amazing. So of course this steaming liquid has some really great flavor in it, so we're going to add it to the pot. But notice I'm going to do it really slowly because again, all that grit that's settled into the bottom of the pan is not going to make its way into the pot.
Be careful.
Yeah, you can see the grit there.
Yeah.
I'm going to stop shy so that little bit of grit stays behind. Now we're just going to return this to a quick simmer. And now we're just going to finish it with a little fresh parsley. Stir that in. And meanwhile, we're going to start to plate up the halibut.
So the halibut never goes back in. It's done.
That's right.
I have to say, looks a little bit better than mine, but this looks fabulous.
I'm always eager to see what people go for first.
The fish, the
Yeah,
halibut. Halibut's
that's what
expensive.
I'm doing too. It is.
I've made quite a few fish stews over the years. This is by far the easiest. First, let me start with that. But easiest is usually not the best, but this is both.
That's right.
Yeah. So to make a great simple fish stew, this is a cioppino from San Francisco. We start with a basic tomato broth with some white wine, also some onion. And then we cook the fish in 3 different parts. We started with halibut, poached it in that sauce for about 12 minutes, took it out and reserved it. And then we cooked the clams. We did that, steamed them with the top on, and then steamed the mussels the same way. Added them back to the pot and finally served it with the halibut, the sauce, and the shellfish. So there you have it from America's Test Kitchen. A whole new way to do a quick and easy fish stew, a cioppino in, 40 minutes?